Okay. Hello, and thank you for joining the first annual New Jersey Youth Transitions Conference. My name is April DePietro. I'm with the Camden County Partnership for Children, the care management organization in Camden County, and I will be your host for today's session, New Jersey Association of People Supporting Employment. We have with us today Amy, Stephanie, and Mr. Brooks. In this format, all participants are muted by default. If you would like to communicate with myself or one of the panelists, please use the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen. Questions will be answered at the conclusion of the presentation. A recording of these presentations will be made available in the next few days on our website at www.njyouthtransition.life. This session is also being closed captioned. In order to activate the closed captioning features, please click on the live transcript button on the bottom of your screen and click Show Subtitles. If you need technology support at any point during the conference, you can access our live tech support Zoom room sponsored by Richard West ATAC. The Zoom room link is available on our website. Please be patient as there may be many people seeking help at the same time. If you are having technology difficulties now, please check your sound and try signing out and signing back in to this session before visiting the tech support Zoom room. Oftentimes this fixes the issue. Please note that we have a hard stop 5 minutes before the top of the next session in order for us to host the next presentation room. I will hand over to our presenters. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We appreciate all the background tech support. My name is Amy Watts. I'm a board member of New Jersey APSE. My co-presenters today are Stephanie Rinaldi, who is Vice President of New Jersey APSE, and Brooke Sanders, who is the Secretary of New Jersey APSE. We really appreciate your coming and your time today and your interest in learning about transition for youth into employment. So you get to listen to me first. I'm going to give you a little bit background about New Jersey APSE. New Jersey APSE is a state chapter of a national organization, and APSE stands for the Association for People Supporting Employment First. Employment First is an initiative set out by our governmental entity that says that employment should be the first and preferred option for kids coming out of school into adulthood. So it's an initiative with our governor's office that says that employment's really important and is trying to put some policies and procedures and things behind that to make it accessible for all. New Jersey APSE's main focus, and all of even National APSE's main focus, is that if you want to work, then you should. And we are a volunteer board that does great things such as identify barriers to employment for people with all types of disabilities, brings it to our state leadership's attention to make sure they know what's going on and find and help and advise in ways to mitigating those barriers. We consult with state leadership on policies and procedures related to employment. And most importantly is we listen. We listen to the needs of the employment providers. We listen to the needs of those who are trying to gain employment. And we provide options and examples of best practices, as well as some training in forms of some smaller sessions, as well as a statewide conference, which eventually, fingers crossed, we'll get back to in person, but we did hold virtually last year to ensure that there's education and there's training and that there's examples of the way this really could make things work quite well. All right, let's talk about working. There's this really great guy named John O'Brien. And John O'Brien is one of those really wonderful thought leaders in the concept of self-direction and person-centered planning, which is some real jargony words, but they're around now. And it is a thought and a design and an intention to make sure that the person who's receiving supports and services has their voice heard and what they want to do is actually the path that's taken for them. So he went around the entire state of New Jersey, he went around the entire United States, and even went internationally, and he asked one very simple question. He asked everyone, what makes you happy? He compiled the answers to all of those responses And he put it into these 5 main service accomplishment categories. And the concept is if the services or the supports that you're providing for a person matches one or multiple of these, then this is going to make them happy. So the idea is that the more accomplishments this service hits, the happier the person receiving the supports and services is. This is the concept. So the 5 accomplishments that he narrowed it down, he took all that information, he narrowed it down into these 5 categories. These categories are sharing ordinary places, making choices, growing in relationships, developing abilities, having a respected and valued social role. So one of the amazing things is that employment hits all of these categories. Sharing ordinary places. Well, I don't know about you, but WOW is a pretty ordinary place. And so if you're working out in the community, you are sharing ordinary places with everyone else. Making choices. There are a lot of choices that you get to make related to employment. Where you want to work, what time you want to work, how often you want to work, how many hours you want to work, all these great things. There's lots and lots and lots of choices that need to be made related to employment. Growing in relationships. I don't know about any of you, but I have human beings in my life now that I have met from previous jobs or I met through my current job who will be lifelong friends. So you learn how to have friendships outside of your inner circle or your school circle. You learn how to have a working relationship with someone who is your boss. You learn how to have a working relationship with someone who you are supervising or working alongside with. So that's a great opportunity for that. Developing abilities. Again, I don't know about you, but I have learned a great deal from any job that I have ever done and grown in my abilities to do different things. Having a valued and respected and valued social role. So I'm going to age myself here for a hot minute. And so if any of you watched the TV show Cheers, one of my favorites, I call this the Norm factor. So as soon as Norm walked into Cheers, everyone went, Norm! He's really excited to see him. Like, ladies, gentlemen, had some cute little thing he said as he went to sit down and start drinking his beer. So having a respected and valued social role means that you walk into the room and people are happy to see you. They are excited to see you. They value the fact that you're there because you're there to do a job that needs to be done. They are happy that you are there because the work will get done. So for people who need supports and services, one of the hugest benefits that employment can give them is the fact that they can give back. So whether your employment journey looks like a bit of volunteering, it looks like community integrated employment, or it looks like a combination of those, in all of those scenarios, a valued social role and respect is an integral part of all of that. So the value of working isn't necessarily the paycheck. It is more that you have gone to a place where you do something for others. And if you are an individual who needs quite a bit or even a little bit of stuff done for you, the ability to do something for somebody else has a huge, huge impact on just your self-worth and your feeling of truly being a part of this world that we all live in, especially if you have some more extra difficulties in communicating or in relating to people. Here's a way that you can do it that is valued and respected by all, sort of universally a wonderful thing. So I'm like nerdily and geekly interested in employment because it hits all these goals. And if it hits all these goals, then conceptually, right, it means that you're happy, which is a nice goal to have. So here we go. I've gotten you all excited, right? Oh my God, yes, I want a job. I want that valued social role. I want to make relationships. I want to be in ordinary places with people. Now what do I do? So if you are someone who is going to or is receiving services through DDD, which is the Division of Developmental Disabilities, congratulations, you get to have a support coordinator. A support coordinator is a person who gets woven into your life that is paid for by the state of New Jersey that helps guide you through adult supports and services. They are your gatekeeper. They are your question answerer. They are your liaison. They are your person. So what your support coordinator can do for you and related to employment is help you have those wonderful, deep conversations about what works for you. What type of job works for you? Where do you want to work? How do you want to work? Do you want to talk to people? Do you not want to talk to people? Do you want to work outside? Do you want to work inside? Do you need a place that's quiet? Do you want a place that's busy and exciting and interesting? What works for you? And Brooks is going to go into this in a little bit more detail when I'm done talking to you. But your support coordinator can help you. They will guide you through those ideas and those conversations to figure out what do I want? What makes sense for me? They can then help you get connected to DVRS, which is the Division of Vocation and Rehabilitative Services. No matter what type of disability or complication you might have in life, DVRS is the place to go that will provide employment supports. And Stephanie will talk a little more detail about this in a little bit. But the support coordinator is a person that can help guide you through that process. They can give you some connections, they can give you some resources, they can tell you what the process will look like to get you up and running. Now, welcome to New Jersey. One of the most important things related to employment is transportation. Probably not what you expected me to say. But if you are in New Jersey, depending on the area you live in, public transportation is dicey at best. It doesn't make any sense or it doesn't help at all to you could find the best job. It's exactly what you want. It's the hours that you want. It's the pay rate you were looking for. It looks like a wonderful environment. And then you can't get there. So one of the first things that we New Jerseyans need to figure out is, how am I going to get to work? That is a conversation that your support coordinator should be having with you to help you figure out what either generic, so maybe Access Link is something that works for you. If private transportation, maybe you need to hire a staff that's going to help you to get to work and back and forth. If you need some travel training, so we talk about NJWINS, which can get you travel training so you can learn how to use the public transportation that's near you, or you can walk there, or you can bike there, or whatever works for you. It's a conversation you should have before you start your employment journey to make sure that you know how you would get to where you need to go. And I mentioned discussing what types of jobs works best for you. As we talk about person-centered planning, it's about what works for you. It's not about what job is available. It's about what job you want to do, to find that joy and to find that happiness. All right, I am going to stop talking for a minute, and I am going to transfer you to Brooks, who's going to continue our conversation.
Good morning, everybody. So what I'm going to go over right now is what is person-centered planning. Person-centered planning is designed to create a vision for someone's future in order to appropriately map out their life and supported needs leading towards employment. Meaning, how do we get to employment? This all needs to be connected together for the outcome that's desired, which is gainful employment. During this process, it's important for all attendees to listen, learn, and work together in order to focus on building a plan with a person for today as well as the future, meaning that what do you need to get them together in order to have them ready for employment right now? How can you build that into something greater for the future, meaning possible career, portfolio, the steps that goes and puts it all together to get the outcome of gainful employment. When creating this plan, friends, family should be involved. They should be working with the person to find out what is important to them. This is the biggest thing that you can do, is finding out what exactly is important to the individual in order to get them into an employment setting that makes them happy, makes them productive, and is centered solely based around them and what they can do. Person-centered planning is not, person-centered planning, what is it? You went back to the slide? All right, so sorry. Person-centered planning is not making decisions without insight from the person the plan is being created for. So If you're not getting input from the individual, this isn't person-centered planning. If you're not taking what they like versus what they dislike, this isn't person-centered planning. Placing the person in an existing program or job that might not be a fit for them or their specific needs is not person-centered planning, folks. This has to be geared solely around the individual. It's extremely important that they have a choice in this process, that they have a voice in this process. And that's where success lies, is focusing it solely on them, not anyone else, not the benefits of the family, not the benefits of anyone else but the individual. Not discussing these issues that may be difficult to understand or complete quickly. So anything that is of transportation issues that you may need in the future, where you have to go to work, or something that can be affecting you, medications for them, what have you. All those difficult conversations need to happen. You have to have those up front, because if you put them on the back burner, you can't successfully integrate them into employment. It's better to be upfront and tackle this head on early on than let it linger, where it becomes difficult and problematic for their career or their employment setting later in the future. This is person-centered employment planning. When looking at this graph, you see the individual in the center, they're the star. Everything around is the services or what they would need in order to be successful. So if we look at this, you see relationships at the top, employment, communication, lifelong learning, community involvement, day-to-day programming or day-to-day lifestyle choices that they may need, finance. Finance is crucial. Finance is tied into all this. In order for this to be successful, obviously some form of monies needs to be here. Home and housing, what does that look like? That's another big part of this whole puzzle. The one thing that I'll say that's not there that Amy touched base on a little bit is transportation. And transportation is becoming more of a problematic issue with our individuals seeking gainful employment, supported employment. So really that should be there. This isn't in it, but you should be thinking about that, because we all know as parents, guardians, what have you, that is one of those bigger issues when navigating through the day-to-day. How do they get to work? Who's getting them from work? How does it all piece together? The other thing is health and wellness, making sure they're happy and healthy, working with them to create a happy and healthy lifestyle. All this together creates that person-centered employment planning. In order to be successful, these pieces all coexist. Everything has to flow. Everything has to be there, or it's not going to work. This is another graph for person-centered planning, which I like, is, again, the centerpiece of everything is the focus person, the individual that you're working to build a career path for, some type of employment to lead them into a career path in the future. So the person's always in the center. You see the family's not there, it's the person. Future goals, it's important to navigate future goals, whether it be where they see themselves in 1 year, where they see themselves in 5 years. Family's a crucial part of this. This is a structure, a safety net. Friends fall right in with that too. Positive people within their life, pulling it all together to help navigate them and be that compass in order to help them get through the tougher times, because this transitional process is a very difficult process. It's all new. They're leaving a system that is school-based, where there's a lot of structure. The structure may not be there. The other thing is abilities of what they like to do. Skills ties into the same thing. What they like to do, what will strong suit them, what is their preference, general interests that make them happy, successful, productive members of society in order to gain that independence within the workforce. And the last piece is career. I keep speaking about career because so many people think employment, but they never think career. Obviously, some form of supported employment in general The end goal for me and for everyone should always be, what does a portfolio look like and how can we get them into a career setting? The first piece though is always this person-centered planning. That's the biggest part in order to map and put everything together. All right, putting it all together to create the plan. Everyone should work together to learn about the person's routines, favorite hobbies, interests, and friends and family. These are all important people. This is all important things to the individual in order for them to be happy and successful. Finding out the person's ideal work environment, job career choices, and general passions. What does the individual like to do? What makes them tick? What's their niche currently? Work environment is crucial. It could be so many different factors of this: noise, light, sound, the list goes on. But you have to figure out what they love to do and how can we make a work environment work for them. Identifying what a bad day at work could potentially look like. So thinking about what they do daily and how they do it and what's the best outcome, but also what does it look like when they have a bad day? What does it look like when they're off? Taking that into accountability when designing a person-centered plan. Also, when employment occurs, taking that in and being able to properly advocate that to the team that you're talking to create this person-centered plan. Be upfront with people. Don't hide behaviors. Don't hide issues. Don't be, make sure that everything is out in the open, because that will affect their success within the workforce later. Working collectively to use all the insights from the person first before providing your own. This is bolded for a reason. It's very important for you to only gather the insight from the person first before you add your own. What they have to say or some type of voice here from them needs to be there before you put your input in. Lastly, make sure the person is given a choice. This is also bolded. They should have a choice in all decisions being created. It shouldn't be family members making the choice and bringing it to them and saying, these are your two options. Through this whole process, choice should be given to them, meaning that multiple jobs, what have you with navigating transportation, the people who will be supporting them, the people that are in their lives in order to be successful in the workforce. Their voice matters, their choice matters. So please take that into consideration when you are creating these plans, that the most important person is the person you're creating the plan for.
Okay, I'm going to go over the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. So there's two services. There's DVRS and DDD. I'm going to start with DVRS. So if you would like to obtain a job and you need supports, your first action, whether you have DDD services or not, is go to DVRS. You're going to complete a referral form. It's a one-page form. You can complete it yourself, or somebody can complete it on behalf of you. And each county has a local office. You're going to send that form to the local office. I work for a service provider. We fax them or scan them in. You have to become eligible. So DVRS is going to get your form. They're going to take a look at everything and deem whether you're eligible. If you are eligible for services, you're going to choose what's called a service provider, somebody that has been approved by the state of New Jersey to provide employment services. Once you choose a service provider, DVRS will send over what's called a referral packet, and then the provider will contact you to do an intake. Once you do the intake, you can start services. There's many different types of employment services, which is really awesome because depending on where you are in the phase of your employment, there's a lot of supports. So the first one is called the trial work experience. If you look back to the left-hand side where it says become eligible, maybe DVRS doesn't know if you're eligible for services through them. So you'll do what's called a trial work experience through a service provider. You will job sample or go to a place of employment, and they will observe you and see your abilities, and then be able to let DVRS know whether or not they feel that you could work in the community. Community-based evaluation is after you're eligible. If you really don't know what you want to do yet, you can job sample at many different places and work with what's called a job coach or an employment specialist to figure out what it is that you would like to do. As Brooke said, it's person-centered planning. So we want to look at the individual and figure out what's best for them and what they want to do for work. Internship is another service. This is a little bit more of an intense service. It's not utilized as much, but it's basically working for a job through an internship and getting paid and having support services through a service provider. Pre-placement, job sampling, and job coaching, intensive and long-term follow-along, they're kind of bundled together when you receive services from DVR. The pre-placement service is when you are looking for a job. So if you think about how we all got jobs, maybe we went on Monster or Indeed and we started looking for jobs, we applied, we did a follow-up email, we prepared for the interview. Those are all the pre-placement services. So for the company that I work for, we do something in pre-placement where we prepare for interviews. So sometimes a job coach will contact me and say, I have somebody that has an interview. Can you do a mock interview with them? And we'll practice so that they're prepared and they're successful during their interview. The next one is job sampling. Job sampling can come before pre-placement. It's for you to sample some jobs because maybe you don't know there's something that you like to do because you don't even know that it's out there. Job coaching is after pre-placement, and actually go to intensive. I guess I didn't put these in order, but intensive is once you go through pre-placement, you get the job. Intensive job coaching is when the job coach goes with you to your work. So your first day of work, you're really, really nervous. You don't know what to do. You don't know where to go for your orientation. The job coach goes with you and they're there your entire shift for the first week or two. They help you, they guide you, they train you, and they're a support system for you. Once you've completed the intensive training, you go to job coaching, which is when the job coach will come in and check on you. We refer to that as fading out. So if you go to intensive and the job coach is there, let's say working with you 80% of the time. Once they get to job coaching, they're there maybe 50% of the time. And then when you're really, really in a good spot for your job, you go to long-term follow-along, which means you get 3 hours of support services a month to help you to make sure that you don't need anything else. So those are all the services that DVRS offers for you. So now we're going to move on to DDD. So DDD provides the same type of service, but they're a different funding source. So if you want DDD services, you can get many services through DDD, not just employment services. DVRS is just employment. So for DDD, you have to apply online, which I provided the link there. You have to fill out a very, very lengthy application, and then you complete the New Jersey CAT assessment. The CAT assessment looks at your abilities, and it gives you a tier for a budget. And once you get your budget, you can work with a support coordinator. And Amy went through that. A support coordinator is comparable to the DVRS has case managers and then the service providers. So for DVRS, it's more working with a service provider and the case manager from DVRS combined. But for DDD, the support coordinator has a little bit more of a different job. They provide a little bit different types of support. And you can get services, you get supported employment, career planning. Pre-vocational training is training before, maybe you need job sampling, maybe you need some classes, there's classroom instruction. Some service providers have curriculum for that. And then also transportation, you can put in your budget for DDD transportation. So maybe that transportation is a service that's going to provide transportation or Uber or some way to get you to and from work. There are other services for DDD. There is a manual that you can go to and look for. It's the supports manual. If you just go and Google New Jersey supports manual, there's a whole list of other supports. I just pinpointed these 4 because they're employment related. So that is the end of the services for DVRS and DDD. Like Amy says, it's very important for us to make sure that individuals go to work first. Years ago, it was very different, and there were different types of programs that people went into out of high school. And now we want to really push for people to be successful and be successful on their wants and their needs and not what somebody else wants. I will tell you, I find a lot that parents will think about what they want, or a guardian what they want, and it's not about what you want, it's about what the individual that's working wants. So I'd like to thank you for listening to our presentation. Amy and Brooks and myself, information is here. We all work at different types of agencies and do different things. You can reach out to me for any questions about navigating the services, and I'm sure Amy and Brooks would feel the same way. And if anybody has any questions, they can put it in the chat and we can answer them before our time is over. I also just wanted to add that New Jersey APSE is volunteer, and we do really, really like parents and individuals to join the board or a committee. So if you're interested in being part of something and making a difference, we would be happy to help you. We always suggest getting on a committee first. We have 3 committees: professional development, member and outreach, and government relations. So if any of that, I always forget yours, Amy.
That's my committee.
I know. If you're interested, we'd love to have you on the committee. But that is all for today. I don't know if Amy or Brooks, you want to add anything before our time is up?
No, I wish everyone well on their journey. This can be a really cool and really awesome experience. I hope everyone takes the risk and does, kind of jumps off the ledge and tries this, because employment can just be just this really rich experience and this really wonderful kind of extra component in your life that has great value and really helps you feel like and be a part of the world around you. And so it's just really, really important. Do we have any questions?
There is nothing in the Q&A box, but I guess we can open it up. We do have 8 attendees. So if anybody has any questions, you can feel free to put them in the Q&A feature. It's in the bottom toolbar. If you move your mouse on your computer over, the toolbar should pop up for you. Gives you an option for Q&A. If anyone has any questions, you guys did a great job. Thank you so much. We do appreciate all the support with the first New Jersey Transitions Conference. Hopefully you will be one of our presenters for next year as well.
Thank you for having us.
Of course.
Thank you everyone who attended today. Again, our information is on there, email and phone. Anything pertaining to employment, please let me know, or reach out, questions, what have you. For those gaining the information today, I'm very excited for you all. This is a huge step, and go in it with an open mind, and you will be successful. If you go in with it that the can't attitude, nothing will occur. So please take that with you and use it. That there's a lot of great services out there that are free to you, and not utilizing them, you're doing a disservice to your family member, loved ones. So go ahead and be proactive in doing that. And if you ever feel like you can't, you got to turn it till you can.
Absolutely. And just so everyone knows, all of the webinars from yesterday's conference and today's will be uploaded on the New Jersey Transitions website, which is www.njyouthtransition.life. So give us a couple days to upload that. So for folks that were unable to attend for whatever reason, obviously weekend and kids and stuff going on, I totally understand. But just so you know, all the webinars have been recorded and will be uploaded to our website shortly after the conference. There's still no questions in the Q&A, so I guess we will just end early. give folks who are attending this webinar a few moments
on.
before they
I
start the
see.
next.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I think we have a question.
We do. Okay, can
We
you guys
do.
read that?
I can.
All right.
I'm going to read the question out so everybody can hear it. We are in our 18 to 21 program. Our case manager has said New Jersey DVRS doesn't get involved until closer to graduation. Should we or can we push to have them involved earlier? Our son has 2 more years left due to the extra COVID year, but is turning 21 this month. So I can answer that question. And then Amy and Brooks, if you want to add anything. You can't get services until your son graduates high school. So what the school normally does is they have you meet DVRS and they get you ready. So when you graduate, you can start services. What I can tell you, I'm a director of services. I oversee a transition program. We work with local high schools in our area and parts of in central New Jersey. We actually work with DVRS and we go in and do some of the services that they do, but on the school side. So you want to also take a look at, does your son have transition services? It is a requirement for graduation by the Department of Education that they do get transition services. That's work readiness skills and job sampling. So you have to wait for DVRS till they graduate, but the school should also be doing their part.
Yeah, definitely. I also see another question. Can one apply for both DVRS and DDD programs? And the answer is yes. There is a memorandum of understanding, which is a fancy way to say that DDD and DVRS are willing to play nicely in the sandbox together, and you can use funding from both sources at the same time. So if you are someone who qualifies for DDD, you would start at DDD to kind of get yourself up and running. You can always use DVR at the same time. The only caveat is that if you want to do any type of employment services, you do need to apply at DVR first, even if you qualify for DDD services. So you would use at that time, you'd use the employment services through DVR or use the supplemental services. It's called braiding services with DDD. So that could be your staffing supports while you're there. It could be the transportation to get you to and from. It could be a person that kind of gets you ready, make sure you've got your right uniform on or everything you need for work on your way. It could be someone that picks you up from work and then does other supports and services afterwards. So yes, you can use both of them together. When your eligibility for DVR ends, if you qualify for DDD, your DDD budget would pick up that long-term follow along that Stephanie was talking about. The funding for that would then come from your DDD budget. If you've worked with DVR and they say, okay, we've tried to find you a job and now it's not, we can't, we're sorry, we've done everything we can. If you want to continue to look for and work on finding a job, you can then use those services through your DDD budget, but it needs to be when DVR has closed your case. Also, if you've done that great pre-placement stuff, you've done some of the community job sampling and DVR says, you know what, we don't think you're eligible for our services, but you still are saying, you know what, I really would like to find a job. Again, you can then use your DDD budget to fund those employment supports. So DDD's got a nice backup budget. If you're not working through DDD, then you just use DVR and that's your source for everything, including the long-term follow along.
Okay, so I see we have, I don't know your name. You're doing the host because it says New Jersey.
Sorry, I was supposed to change it. April the teacher. Sorry about that.
And thank you, April. April, just let everybody know in the chat too that there are pre-ed services. And that is true. The school district can get pre-ed services through DVRS. The caveat to that is that the school has to also provide the services and DVRS provides the funding for it for what they don't supply. So it can be very complicated because DVRS is like, hey, the school is supposed to do this. So it just depends on who you're working with. As a service provider who has a very large transition program, I'm able to navigate that. But if you're a little bit not as knowledgeable on how it works, it can be complicated. I will tell you too, from experience, a lot of school districts don't even know what's available. So that's where I kind of come in and I teach them what is available, what they can do, and what funding is there. So if anybody, wants to ask me questions specifically, you're more than welcome to call me, because I can also call the school and just help and have a conversation, or at least guide you in the right way.
And just to let you know, PREET stands for Pre-Employment Transition Services. So it's just, there's a lot of letters.
Alphabet soup.
Yes.
Welcome to the alphabet soup of adult support services. There's a lot of letters
Yeah,
that stand for lots of things. So we do our best to try to define them along the way.
absolutely. This
And
one
it- and-
agency that I had listed in the chat box gets most of their funding from the Department of Labor. So right now, at least in the southern region of New Jersey, they're actively trying to connect with schools to get the word out, to make sure that folks know that you can tap into these pre-ETS services prior to, like, between the ages of 14 to 24. So there are so many resources out there.
There are, and there's a lot of service providers. And I always tell people, you have lots of service providers, and like people, they're good and bad. You have to find what your mix is. So when I'm speaking to people and they come to me, if they're not comfortable with my staff, or they don't like how I'm doing the services, I tell them you're able to pick. That's what's really great about DVRS and DDD. You can pick who you work with. And it's your choice as a family and as an individual. So if you go to one agency and you're not happy, you can just go to another agency and work with them.
Same thing with job supports between agencies. If you're getting somebody from the state and you're going that route, don't think that who you have is just who you have. If there's not a connection between the individual and the coach or the supports, you have to be proactive with that. You have to make sure that it's a fit. Reach out. Never be afraid to reach out. Never be afraid to voice for the individual to voice, or the family to advocate as well. If it's not connected, then you need to move on from that, because you're really doing a disservice to the individual. And as we spoke, choice is a big piece of this. The other thing I wanted to say is just Stephanie touch base. You can always go on NJAPSE. If you have any questions whatsoever, we're constantly out there putting information. We have a board that's very broad. The committees that we're on are very broad. Amy and I are part of the Government Relations Committee. So if you really don't know what's out there, please just go to our website. Our information's up here today. Our information is also on the website. So go there and look at what kind of information we're providing, and we'll do our best to help you. And we always go above and beyond. So just use what you have. There's so many resources. There's so much revenue out there that's for you. And if you don't use it, it's meaningless. So please go out there and do this research, especially if your young child is transitioning, they're 18, like the question 20, 21, you have 2 years, but what I would say is, if you're looking at a family member or what have you that is early on, that looks like employment is the future for them, start it now. Start looking and researching now. Don't wait to 18. You could start at 16 and focus on what their strengths are in order to make them successful in the future. If the employment is the route, if education's a route, then you need to focus on the same thing, education and what career path they would get into. But there's so many services out there. Please utilize them.
Since we actually have, a few moments, I just want to take the time, if it's okay with you guys, to share with everybody about the New Jersey Resource Net database that's available to everybody in the state of New Jersey. So each county across our great state has a Resource Net database specific to their community. So I represent Camden and I manage the Camden County Resource Net platform. Essentially, it is a web-based search tool for all things in your community. So from outpatient therapy to IDD resources for our kiddos to local churches and community centers. It is free to use. Anybody can access it. There is a New Jersey website. So if you go to Google and type in New Jersey Resource Net, it will be one of the first options that pops up. When you click on the site, you're going to see a map of New Jersey. Hover your mouse over the county in which you're seeking for services and just click. It will take you to that county specific ResourceNet platform. Here in Camden, every time I meet fine individuals like yourself, that's a good, positive, sustainable resource for our community. I'm always encouraging that agency to make a ResourceNet page for themselves. Like I said, it's free of cost. It's simple. You make a login and password. You can upload logos, links to social media accounts, your own website. It basically holds as a placeholder to connect the community to your direct website. So think of it as free marketing on your end, but for us, we push it in our communities because it connects professionals, parents, caregivers, teachers, and even kids have used the site. So for example, a young person may tap in to find out more about something that they're uncomfortable talking to their parent about, right? Like LGBTQ issues or things like that. So it's a really, really great tool. So please feel free to check that out. Go to Google, type in New Jersey ResourceNet, and then hover your mouse over the county you're looking for. And hopefully you guys will make a page if you haven't already, and you can be a master listing, because I believe you service all of New Jersey, obviously, which is awesome. So you guys can make a page and then it will multiply over all of the ResourceNets across the state.
That's
Thank you,
really
April.
cool.
Thank you, April.
Really cool.
You'll
Yeah, it's just,
definitely
because
that.
old school way of doing things, people don't know what they need until they need it. And like they go
Yeah.
to a doctor's office, or, a friend is like, oh, hey, here's all these resources. And then where does that end up? In the garage, on top of the refrigerator. This is right on your phone. It's available in multiple different languages. It's user friendly. It's just like Google, but specific to resources that are sustainable and beneficial in each community across the state.
That's awesome. Really
Awesome.
appreciate that. I want to toss one more thought in as we talk about choices. You can tell New Jersey they were serious when they talked about person-centered planning and self-direction. Just like the providers, just like the job coaches, you have choices with everything. You also have choices with support coordination agencies. And that's a big one, because that's that person you make that relationship with, that you kind of download and tell your whole story to, and is the human being that helps kind of guide you in your life, right? Not just employment, but in everything that makes everything work for you, whether it be at home, whether it be in your own home, whether it be in your job or any place else. So again, with all service providers, if the relationship doesn't feel right, if it's just not a good match, do not hang on. Go find someone else. And I lovingly tell my parents that I support, or the families I support, and say, hey, go shopping, go figure it out, right? Like, you wouldn't stay with a doctor that didn't feel right, or you didn't feel was listening to you. This is just as important, if not more.
It's kind of like deodorant. There's a whole bunch at the grocery store. It's not that one isn't qualified to do the job. It's just you have preferences, and that's okay. So
Right.
it's really
If there's a
important.
scent you like, or a color you like, or a
Right.
style you like, it goes for support coordination. It goes for the actual job coach that's working with you. It goes for the company that's providing it. It goes for the transportation provider. So no matter who it is that you or your loved one is lining up to help work and support you, it has to be a good match. It has to be a good relationship. Don't settle. Don't
Right.
settle. Go find another person, go find another group, ask for a different job coach, ask for a different support coordinator, go find a different provider agency, find the thing that works for you. And that will lead you to success.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you'll know when it doesn't, because it's just drags on and you're waiting for documentation, just examples, waiting for documentation, waiting for the process to begin. If you're waiting early on, that could be a sign that what's to come. So definitely be proactive and make sure that it feels good for everybody who's involved. And if it's not, you'll know. And please be proactive. The advocacy piece for the individual is the biggest part of this whole thing, especially if they can't self-advocate or they don't have a voice. You need to help to be their voice.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. I hope everybody enjoyed this presentation. Thank you again for the participating, and a big thank you to our speakers. And once again, all of the recordings will be available on the New Jersey youthtransition.life website shortly after the conference today. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for having
welcome.
us.
Thank you for having
Everyone,
us.
be well, stay safe.
Enjoy
Same
the
to
beautiful
you.
weather in the weekend.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.